Welcome back to another episode of Sports Curious. I am once again joined by my co-founder and my favorite wonderful brother, Scott. Hi, Scott.
Hello, thank you for having me on Sports Curious again.
I am so happy to have you here, and I love this new format. We've received some really great feedback from our previous listeners that they really love having you on board because you have some great insight. So you like to be behind the scenes, but we're making you come out in the spotlight.
It's a transition for me, so thank you for working through this.
It's been fun for those of you who don't know. I really bring the pop culture side of things for last night's game, which we cover sports for people who don't know a lot about sports and want to talk about them. And Scott really brings that sports mind. And in my entire life, Scott has been that person that I ask all the sports questions to and still do. So it's so fun to have him on here, and you all get the perspective that I have of being able to ask all the questions. And he's so patient and so great about it. So it's so fun to absorb all of this knowledge from him. And the reason I know what I know is because of him. So um, you are now getting to be part of the family here, I guess. Everyone's getting on board with this misfit family of ours.
It takes teamwork to get through
Teamwork.
through all this.
Yeah. So this week we're going to talk about the NFL draft. The NFL draft, we'll call it 10, 15 years ago, was exciting, but it wasn't the spectacle that it is today. I mean, there's guest pickers. There's last year's draft was in Vegas, and there was a red carpet on the Bellagio fountains, and all of these different things. The NFL has really done an amazing job of making this an occasion that people are getting excited about, and they're very good at just finding one more place to sell sponsorships, etc. And they've done a really good job with it, making the NFL draft interesting. So we should start by saying the draft itself is the 27th through the 29th of April in Kansas City. Um, but it wasn't that long ago that the draft was only in New York. So can you talk a little bit about the history of that sort of growth and transition into a traveling roadshow, if you will?
Yeah, the NFL is good at making things a spectacle, becoming relevant all year round. So they looked at the draft only being in New York and realized that there's so many opportunities outside of New York just to spread it around, get different fans involved, move it to different cities. So I mean, they've done Nashville, Dallas, Las Vegas, Chicago, and like we said this year, Kansas City. So they're just getting so many different parts of the country involved in traveling roadshow.
Hmm. Well, and have you been to Kansas City where they have the Power and Light District over there and the really cool setup?
I have not, unfortunately. It's on the list. I know Arrowhead Stadium's supposed to be like one of the best tailgates, best experiences. So
Really, I did not know that.
is
Well,
that
shout
near
out
the
to our
state? Is it near the stadium?
I no, I'll be honest, I went there for a Taylor Swift concert.
Oh,
So I
okay.
don't really know. I know it's by the arena. But shout out to our friend Guadi, whose company built that Power and Light District. So she spent quite a bit of time in Kansas City. So um it's a cool spot. I mean, there's a lot of cool things
Mhm.
about Kansas City. So, but we're not here to talk about Kansas City. Sorry, Kansas City.
Taylor
Um,
Swift, unfortunately.
I mean, the NFL draft is not quite as big as Taylor Swift.
No, it's not.
But
No,
if
no.
they play their cards right, maybe. I mean, you went to Taylor Swift concert. I'm going in a couple weeks. I'm very excited.
Yeah, it was. But I'd much rather go to Taylor Swift in the draft, but here we are.
And we're talking football, and she's filling football stadiums that sometimes
Yes,
the teams cannot. So there's that too.
yes.
But speaking of big money, I mean, having the draft is a big draw, or is becoming a big draw for the cities that are hosting it. I know we had about 300,000 people in Vegas last year for the draft. But talk to me. You went to the draft. Like, you're talk to me a little bit about the experience and what was that like?
And yeah, like we said, moving cities, there's so much economic impact going on within those cities. We had like 300,000 people on the strip last year. Red carpet on the Bellagio fountains. It's just bringing all different fans from all around the country. These ravenous, crazy, fanatic football fans to different cities. I think this year, though, what they're expecting over $100 million into Kansas City,
Yep, I think that sounds about right.
and
It's
hundreds of thousands of fans.
It's pretty cool. So I have a question for you that you may not know the answer to, but okay, so especially like on draft, the first day of the draft, you always see the fans in the sort of front section right along the stage are like the crazy fans, right? They're all in their gear, their
Fake
faces are
paint.
painted, the
Yeah.
whole thing, right? You have blue people who are Bills fans and whatnot. Are those, do you think those are raffles? Like, do you think the teams know these crazy fans and they get them the tickets? Do you know how they determine those people?
I don't know exactly, but I think the NFL, they have them submit, who's the craziest fans of those specific teams, and then they make sure they have the arrangements to get there and fly them out. So that way you have grown men with Bengals face paint on and,
Hmm.
shirtless with.
As you do. I mean, Bills
Yeah.
fans jump through tables. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's every team's got their thing, right? Um, Last year I did read some stuff that the numbers are down for viewers on the draft last year. Why if they're making such a spectacle about it, is are two more people going in person, or why aren't people watching then if they're making this such a spectacle about this?
I think being in Vegas last year may have factored in. A lot of fans who probably would never have traveled did come to the draft just to be in Vegas and be around the environment. And last year, you said the numbers were down. There weren't like I think the top three picks were all defense, which, they're obviously great players, but they're not the sexy pick of a quarterback. And this year we've got two quarterbacks with Bryce Young from Alabama and CJ Stroud from Ohio State, which are, those fan bases are crazy too. So they're going to tune in, and quarterbacks are obviously like the face of the franchise. So I think ratings will be up for sure this year.
So talk to us about, I mean, CJ Stroud and why am I blank? Bryce Young. Why
So,
who Young who is sorry, I had a brain lapse there. Who is like what should we expect? What do we need to know if we're gonna be out talking to people?
mhm.
What's the fun things we should say about those two and who do you think's gonna go first? I mean, are they comparable? I talk to me about share your wisdom.
I'd say who's going to go first changes hourly, daily. There's so many rumors floating. Teams float rumors, either good or bad, depending on where they're picking. Um, I mean, Bryce Young had the ideal college career at Alabama, Heisman Trophy winner, national championship winner. So there's really, I mean, he seems like a lock to be that franchise guy. Really, the only knock on him is his height and his
He's
weight.
small, right?
He's,
I
he's
mean,
pretty tiny. He's 5'10", I think 180 ish.
okay.
So that's really the only knock I think that you could really have on him.
But
But
so we've
yeah,
had
but
some
with
people
the,
go number, yeah.
I mean, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, all pretty undersized quarterbacks, and the rules have kind of changed to where quarterbacks really don't get hit anymore. So I don't foresee that really being an issue. And then
But I mean,
CJ Stroud from Ohio State, incredible career, incredible numbers. Seems like he's got his head on his shoulders straight. So I really don't think you can miss with either of those guys.
um, but talk to me about, so there's been some controversy around CJ Stroud recently. What with the Manning brothers or something? Can you shed a little light on that?
I think it was actually, I think yesterday that rumor broke that he blew off the Manning Passing Academy, which is like this, prestigious quarterback camp the Mannings put on. All the big names are there, and I don't, I don't think it's much to worry about. There's all kinds of crazy rumors, like I said, coming out the week before the draft, and you don't know who started them, where they came from. So this could be a team that wants him to drop in the draft, like trying to diminish his
Interesting.
reputation. So
Or CJ Stroud's camps over there going, well, did you see this? This guy
yeah,
maybe he's not your franchise guy.
yeah, maybe they've slipped it because they don't want him going two. If they think he's going to drop to two, who knows?
That's interesting.
So
It's
it's all kinds
very
of it's misinformation.
yeah, it's very Kerry Washington and scandal like planting things to just to
Yes.
distract and deflect. And those are things we I guess really don't think about, right?
Hmm.
When you think about what this whole process looks like. We watch Jerry Maguire, but we really don't think about the whole process of how you're
And the
really truly
scenes.
right.
Yes.
It,
And really the only team that knows when they're picking is the first pick. So they can
okay.
they can do whatever they want. They can spread rumors. They can kind of cause ruckus if they want.
So who
There's
does have the first pick?
this year's. Actually, pretty interesting. Typically, it's going to be the worst team in the league has the number one pick, but this year it's the Carolina Panthers. And if we go on a little journey with me back to last season, week 17, the Houston Texans were the worst team in the league. All they had to do was lose, and they would have the first pick. But their coach found out he was probably going to get fired after the game. And so he said, I don't really care about the number one pick. And they went out there and actually played to win the game and won on a last second 2-point conversion. So he blew their chances at the number one pick,
Mic
which,
drop.
yeah. And I mean, he was like, oh, whatever. I don't care. So then the pick went to the Chicago Bears just out of pure luck. And what they've done is they've flipped that number one pick for a ton of draft picks and a good wide receiver to Carolina.
Okay. So
So
talk. First of all, did the Texan coach get fired?
absolutely, yeah,
He definitely did after that, right?
yes,
Definitely.
yeah. No one wanted to win that game but him. So
And maybe his team to stick it to the ownership.
exactly.
Um, Talk to us a little bit about like the draft structure. I mean, there's multiple rounds.
Hmm.
How many picks are in the first round? If you get picked in the third round, is it destitute? Can you give us a little structure combo around that?
Yeah, like we said, the NFL turns everything into a spectacle. So only the first round is on Thursday. So they make this big production. So only the first round will be on Thursday. All There's 32 picks. It doesn't necessarily mean every team has a pick in the first round, based on previous trades. But yeah, everything's on Thursday is the first round. Then second and third round are Friday. Remaining rounds are Saturday. And I would say, unless you're in the first one or two rounds, there's no guarantee you're even, destined to make that roster. The NFL's so cutthroat. So there's really no guarantees out of any of this,
Yeah. And
which makes
unlike
it so
the
interesting.
Yeah, of course. And unlike other leagues, the NFL doesn't have a development league that you're going to go to. If you're drafted by a Major League Baseball team, you're going to enter a single A, double A, triple A team where they have
Mm-hmm.
sort of a development league that they can have a huge crop of players. Granted, they have well, they don't really have bigger rosters than an NFL team, but they don't have a development league. So you're basically in or out.
Yes, this is it.
This
This
is
is your
it.
one. This is your one chance. So yeah, if you're first round, I'd say you're locked in. After that, it's really a toss up.
Interesting. What
So
pick was
a
Tom
lot of
Brady?
pressure. He was the sixth round, and I don't want to get this wrong, but I think it was the 262nd pick. So
Yeah, I mean, I put you on the
when you
spot.
look,
Sorry.
yeah, when you look back at that, that's just really crazy that the odds were very low.
I
Look
mean,
what he
when you
did. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's funny though because you look at wasn't his 40-yard dash like one of the slowest from a quarterback? I mean,
it
his
was. It
40-yard
was
dash at the combine was so slow and he was so skinny.
in the infamous
Um,
shirtless picture.
and
Yeah,
then sure.
looking at that.
Well, can we talk a little bit? I mean, let's talk a little bit. Can we talk about the combine for just a moment? For those
Of
who
course.
don't know, the NFL combine is sort of the tryout, if you will, for a bunch of scouts to kind of get your key players, right? So you have to be invited to participate. They also call it the Underwear Olympics. So can you give us a little bit about the Underwear Olympics?
And the most intense job interview, most invasive job interview anybody could ever go through. I mean, they've got you like basically in your underwear, weighing you, taking your measurements, taking pictures like we've seen, which is obviously embarrassing for some guys. And I don't know that I would want to do that. Would you?
No, no. There's a
Before
reason
you,
I don't do swimsuit modeling. I mean, you know I'm
yeah.
cut out for it. I'm just really not comfortable with it. But also my hands are not scrutiny if I was a swimsuit model. That's a whole thing about Bryce Young, right? Is his hand size, and that's a huge thing beyond the invasive questions they get asked and the measurements. It's all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden it's all over the news that you have small hands.
Something you never thought you'd have to worry about as a
Right.
football player. No upcoming lawyers asked about his hand size, going to court. So yeah, it's really it's very invasive. So I'm glad
It's
I don't have to do it. These guys
uh,
are brave for even embarking on that.
right. I mean, you're really just setting yourself up to be criticized, which is, I mean,
Hmm.
you can't change your hand size. You might be able to get faster, you might be able to get a little bit bigger. You can't
Yeah,
change your height, you can't change your hand size. Like those are things that if that's like, thanks for the comment, and it's nothing I can do about it. And I think was it Bryce Young who said, "I've been playing with these hands my entire career, so they weren't a problem before."
yeah. So why would it be a problem moving forward? I mean,
Right,
some
exactly.
guys do hand massages to try to get their hands a little bit bigger. So keep
Didn't
that
know
in
that was a
mind
thing.
if anyone asks you on a job interview.
Okay, noted. Do some stretching and massaging
Yeah,
beforehand. Okay, noted. Oh my gosh, things I never knew.
yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the picking. For someone who's never seen a draft, they're going to need to be prepared for the booing of Roger Goodell, who is the commissioner of National Football League, and he does the first round picks usually, or a couple of first round announcements. But he gets booed every time he walks to the podium. Have they done that to other commissioners, or is this a new Roger Goodell thing?
Other commissioners do get it, but he gets it by far the worst. I mean, it's a tradition unlike any other, and he's kind of embraced it throughout the years. I think at first, I'm sure he was shocked. So he's kind of feeds into it, gets the crowd really going. And I think it's just the reason is I think every fan base thinks that Roger Goodell hates them. So there's some kind of grudge with every fan base. So no matter what team you are, you think he's done something to you or offended your team or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. So you get Roger Goodell being booed, but then they also bring in, probably to help with the booing, they bring in guest pickers, and you tend to see those throughout some of the later rounds. But who do we have coming as guest pickers this year?
There's no better way to deflect the viewing than bringing out, a member of the military or something
Or
like that.
Sweet
So
Kid
they,
from Make a Wish? I know.
local football players, I think they're doing a lot of that this year. So they really, he embraces the booing, but then they deflect as well as they can to to stop the booing from the intense fans with the face paint,
You the face
shirtless.
painting.
Yeah,
Are there any notable guest pickers we should pay attention for or listen for?
there's a lot of members of the military that are going to be making picks throughout the few days. I know they're going to bring in a bunch of local like youth football players, youth football teams, high school football teams to get really get the crowd involved. And then on day 3, the host city, the Kansas City Chiefs, they have one of their super fans that's going to make the pick. His name's James Droz. Have you ever heard of him?
I have not.
He's this basically social media superstar. TikTok, Instagram. He does have Down syndrome, but he's known for his. If your team's losing, you don't want him to make a video about your team. So his catchphrase is "What happened," and then he'll say the team like "What happened, Seattle," and then you just get your team gets roasted for losing.
Okay, I'm gonna have to follow this guy
You're gonna
now.
have to go check him out. And I know his videos. I mean, hundreds of millions of views. He's just a legend.
Okay, we're gonna have to somehow
And
figure out
there's an
figure this out.
Oklahoma tie for you. He is from
Okay.
Oklahoma.
Oh, he is. Okay, well there
He
you
is.
go.
He
All
made
right.
an appearance when Oklahoma State this year in the locker room,
Oh,
and
awesome.
Oklahoma
Okay.
won. Yeah, and then
Okay.
he got to roast Oklahoma State with the "What Happened" video.
Oh, that's awesome. You know what? There is some levity with social media. I know it's not always the best thing,
Yeah.
but I do love that it's given a platform to some people. And at some point, you got to have a good sense of humor and enjoy
Hmm.
it. So if you can't enjoy being roasted by James, then you shouldn't come out on the field.
Yeah, it's really a cool thing that he's kind of gotten the stardom out of it, and he's getting announced a pick for his favorite NFL team. So I mean, the internet is good for some things sometimes.
Absolutely. Okay, last thing before we wrap up, I want to talk about literally the last thing in the draft,
Hmm.
Mr. Irrelevant. And Mr. Irrelevant is the last player chosen in the draft. and they're irrelevant because you would assume that they would never do anything with a football career. I'll let you talk about the most successful Mr. Irrelevant in just a second. But I want to talk about Mr. Irrelevant Week has been around for 45 years. It was started back, I believe it was in 1976, Mr. Irrelevant. And so for 45 years, they've been having this Mr. Irrelevant Week where they do Newport, they're in Newport Beach and they do a charity week with they give out they've given out $1 million in charity since its existence. They give out a Lozman Trophy instead of a Heisman Trophy to the outstanding college football player of the year. I mean, they go to Disneyland, all kinds of cool things.
So they've turned this, what you would think would be kind of a daunting on reputation into charity work. So that's really cool. I didn't know that they
Absolutely.
actually had. I didn't know it was a charity.
How do we get media passes for that? We need to go.
We'll send them an email here. I'd like to
Okay,
be irrelevant with them.
I think that sounds good. I'm okay with that. Okay, talk to us about what the most famous Mr. Irrelevant, most successful Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy.
Pretty taken last year in last year's draft. And as you can imagine, Mr. Relevance in the past have not necessarily fared well with making teams and actually getting playing time. So he he's the first ever Mr. Relevant quarterback to even throw a touchdown in a regular season game. And thankfully, not there was so many injuries to the 49ers that he was forced into action, stepped right in, and didn't miss a beat with the team. Went on with what they do. I think a 7-game winning streak.
Yeah.
Is
My
Mr.
favorite,
Irrelevant.
yeah, I mean that's huge. My favorite was the TV shots of his family and just knowing that he was going to play in this game
Mm-hmm.
as, stepping in for Garoppolo who went out. And just how excited they were. And I mean, thinking that this would probably they never thought this would happen. And it was awesome to watch them get excited. And it was awesome to watch just everyone loves an underdog
Mm-hmm.
and the media get excited and rally around him and the fans and his team. Like it was really, really cool.
And yeah, such low expectations, and then he just stepped in and really led that team on a crazy run. I'm sure his parents were just elated.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
unfortunately, it did end badly in the playoffs when he ended up having Tommy John surgery,
oh,
which
I
is
didn't
a
realize that.
prevalent baseball injury. So he had a good run. Hopefully, he can bounce back, come back this year
Is he the starting quarterback at this point for the 49ers?
if he can throw,
Okay.
which is still up in the air. So
Okay. So it's up to him at this point. It's his
yes,
job to lose. Got it.
yes.
Well, that's awesome. Well, hopefully we'll have some good stories come out of the draft. I do love that they've set it up. That's a lot like American Idol. You get to learn about all these different contestants and things. And so, um, okay, the draft, April 27th through 29th in Kansas City. Um, Thanks for joining me. If those of you listening, if you have other questions that we didn't talk about and you want more, let us know. We're happy to cover it in a video on social or something along those lines. So,
Um, if
thank
I
you,
can
Scott.
interrupt, can I
Yes,
interrupt real quick?
please.
I have a question. If you were
Okay.
about to get drafted, what team would you want to be drafted by?
What team would I want to be drafted by?
Yes, all
Well,
things considered.
all things considered, well, I probably wouldn't want to go number one because chances are that's not the best team in the league. Although I'm
Hmm.
sure the money drop from number one to number 10 is significant.
Yes,
Gosh, I guess, am I going as a quarterback? Do I have a position?
you can be a quarterback. So you have a really
Okay.
good arm.
I have a great arm. I have small hands though. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. I would go somewhere that has a closed stadium because I don't like cold.
Right.
Um, yeah, I'm not made for Green Bay. Sorry, Green Bay Packers fans. You're much braver than I am. Um, I'll try to keep it short. I guess I'm kind of sounding out in my head because I wasn't really sure. I mean, the Cowboys is America's team, but I'm not sure I'd want to play for Jerry Jones. That seems kind of high maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know.
Like maybe
Somewhere like
factor in state income tax, maybe.
I mean, that's something to consider. I don't know. I would say somewhere that has like just a really the fans have a kind of a chill vibe and they have a good ownership. I mean, that really maybe not some specific team, but I'd like somewhere that, um, you could be a part of the community and still be a part of the team and feel like you could contribute and not be overshadowed by a Jerry Jones or someone like that who's just going to
Yeah,
hang you out to dry whenever they can. What about you? What about you?
I mean, it's gonna sound like a homer answer, but considering weather, dome stadium, no state income tax, I'd have to. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Raiders.
Okay, I
A
mean,
brand,
you
a
are.
brand, a brand name known everywhere.
It's
Maybe
true,
it's a.
and it's you wouldn't have to move.
I wouldn't have to move either.
So there's that. I mean, that's
Yeah,
always a win. You could keep Miley the pup at home.
I'll be practicing games every day.
That I mean, she would love nothing more.
Mhm.
I love it. Well, give Miley a hug for me. And those of you who are watching the draft, stay tuned. Would love to hear your feedback. Tag us if you're checking things out on Instagram or Twitter. And yes, we will see you here next week for another episode. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, Derby next week.
Talk to you next week.
Can't wait.
Good luck.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.